But he and I will talk about that later. I knew that the choice of Peter Melhado as an MC was a great mistake. He knows far too much about me. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, as the President did earlier, all protocols observed. Good evening. I want to thank the PSOJ and its selection committee for conferring this honor on me. It is a real privilege for me to be counted amongst the 25 previous inductees into the PSOJ Hall of Fame. There are several other persons I would like to thank, but before I do that, certain references were made during the President's speech about my appearance. And I was a little bit puzzled because the truth is Howard is not one who is known for his sartorial elements. I mean, I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, compare. The pants don't fit him. There are, well, as for Mr. Melhado, he didn't make any barbs on this occasion about my dress, although he is wont to do so frequently. But I always remind him of the year in 2004 when no lesser light than Chester Francis Jackson anointed him the worst dressed businessman in Jamaica. Yes, and I referred to his wardrobe as hen pan meal. And in fact, at a subsequent board meeting, at the end of the meeting, I said very solemnly to the meeting that I had an item of business that I wish to discuss. It was of critical importance to the future of the company. And that was Peter's recent appearance in this worst dressed list. And the board agreed with me that we should immediately grant the man a clothing allowance. But apart from Howard and Peter, there are lots of other people that I want to thank. Apart from those two. First, the team from the PSOJ, ICD, and the Pegasus, who have been responsible for planning and executing this event. To my colleagues, past and present at ICD, as well as those in the wider private and public sectors, I want you to know that it is through your support and collaboration that the accomplishments for which I am being honored this evening have been made possible. So in a very real sense, my induction, tonight's honor, is as much an honor for you as it is for me. And I thank you all for your support over the years. Of course, I want to acknowledge the presence of my dear sisters, Jacqueline and Gail, and their husbands, Ramon and Solly. My dear sister, Rebecca, and her two eldest children, Gabby and Raymond, as well as my brother cousin, Anthony Shalom, and his wife, Esther, all of whom have traveled from Mexico and Panama to be with us for the occasion. I want to just pause for a moment to relate to you that growing up with 4 older sisters, had the disadvantage of providing me with not 1, but 5 mothers. Some of them more strict than others. It is also true to say, though, that it also has had the great advantage, to my mind, of putting me, sometimes quite forcefully, in touch with my feminine side. The more progressive in the audience will immediately understand what I'm talking about. For the rest of you, I will leave you to reflect upon it. Suffice to say, I am very grateful that my sisters have been and continue to be an important part of my life. To the many friends and all of my extended family members, and it's a big family, guys, that's why we managed to sell out the room tonight. Thank you all for sharing this evening with me tonight. To my in-laws, Oki and Angela, Peter and Nicola, well, not Peter, Nicola, Diane and Sian, thank you for welcoming me so warmly into the Melhedo and Denner families. I'm compelled to make special mention of Angie, who is not only, ladies and gentlemen, the very definition of the ideal mother-in-law, but also, as a further dividend, has always been very quick to come to my aid in any occasional domestic dispute that might arise. Thank you, my darling Angie. To my own parents, Maya and Sarita, who, though not physically present with us tonight, are very much present for me in spirit. Thank you for your love and your example, and through the many opportunities you provided to me, for the springboard which you created for my professional career and my entire life's journey. Last and most important, my beautiful wife, Tracy. Beautiful both inside and out, ladies and gentlemen, who, as you have heard, is unquestionably my soulmate and an individual with whom I have been privileged to walk this earth for the last 26 years. Together, we have been blessed to raise 2 wonderful children, our son Maya and our daughter Ali, both of whom have traveled from Panama and New York to be with us tonight. And with whom, to quote the scriptures, we are well pleased. Tracy and I also have shared a joint professional project and some would say passion for the last 18 years or so in Hillel Academy. Tracy inspired and recruited me to join that cause, and I want to publicly acknowledge that any success that we have had together with the Hillel team in improving the standards and performance of that institution are entirely due to her passion, commitment, and hard work. I have merely been an instrument. Thank you, Track, for putting up with me for the past 26 years, for always being in my corner and being, for me, a constant place of refuge, safety, and love. Ladies and gentlemen, worse luck for you. It is apparently customary for the Hall of Fame inductee to make some remarks about some important subject matter, economic or social. I considered talking about tax policy, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, or even that most gripping of topics, utility regulation. But before you all let out a collective groan of despair, you will be relieved to know that I thought better of it. Instead, I want to offer just a few words on the role of the private sector in civil society. To my mind, ladies and gentlemen, the world at present is in many respects a very scary place. The ravages of the Great Recession served to exacerbate a multi-decade trend of increasing inequality across the world, both in terms of income and wealth, and has thereby given rise to a lot of disillusionment and anger among electorates around the world, many of whom have reacted by putting populist leaders in power. Leaders whose playbook typically involves leveraging that anger and disillusionment by scapegoating minorities and immigrants, sowing the seeds of division in society, and trending more and more toward a belligerent form of authoritarianism. It's easy to believe that many of these trends do not and will not affect our own society here in Jamaica. We would be wrong in doing so. These developments will almost certainly have important implications for Jamaica's place in and approach to a very much shifting geopolitical landscape. But we must also, I believe, look inward. For the fact is, Jamaica's own income inequality, while by no means the worst in the world, has worryingly been on the rise in recent times. And this concern should not occupy our governments and policymakers alone. The PSOJ, which I think of as an important civil society organization, and private sector actors more broadly, have a critical role to play in influencing government policy in response to these trends and in steering our economy in the direction of inclusive growth, greater equality of opportunity through the education system, and putting in place a social safety net that can genuinely protect the most vulnerable in our society. Indeed, as an influential member of civil society, I believe the PSOJ ought to provide leadership and assume the role of convener that facilitates debate and consensus around the most effective strategies towards combating the worst ills of that inequality. We fail to do so, ladies and gentlemen, at our peril. We have only to look around us at the increasing lack of social cohesion in societies around the globe, which have given rise to more and more pockets of social and economic instability. I was therefore very encouraged by the President's, one of the few things I was encouraged by. In fact, it seems to me that his entire approach to his contribution to tonight's proceedings was designed to lose him the election in December. Do you agree? But having said that, I am encouraged by his pronouncements tonight about the need to participate as active members of civil society towards what he has described as a new capitalism. If I interpret him correctly, this new capitalism, amongst other things, recognizes our responsibility in the private sector to be cognizant of the issues that I've just described, and to collaborate with civil society and our governments of whichever stripe to be a part of the solution rather than the problem. To rise, ladies and gentlemen, above our own narrow interests and to have a real perspective of the interests of all of the society. Let me be clear. I am not suggesting, Mr. President, that PSOJ abandon its free market principles in favor of some new brand of utopian socialism. That in and of itself, I think, would be a tragic mistake. Rather, we need to redouble our efforts to improve access to quality education for all and not just for some Jamaicans. We must insist on the establishment of an adequate system of social security benefits and social interventions in aid of our most vulnerable brothers and sisters and their communities. And we must all, individually and collectively, lend our efforts and resources in providing our people with the skills and attitudes to attain the dignity of decent employment and productive enterprise. I hope, in respect of this last, that you will forgive me for an opportunistic plug on behalf of the youth program, which was a creation, in fact, of the PSOJ, born, as we've been told, in the aftermath of the Tivoli incursion in 2010. That program has been adopted by the ICD group and is a part now of the Multicare Youth Foundation, which foundation itself has sought for over 30 years to enrich the curricula via sport and the visual and performing arts of resource-poor inner-city schools in the Kingston metropolitan area and St. Catherine. The youth programs, on the other hand, focus on an older cohort of at-risk youth who have been failed by our education system, providing remedial education, life and vocational skills training, mentorship, and job placement services. Ladies and gentlemen, the plight of at-risk youth in our inner-city communities is as urgent today as it was in 2010. And I want to appeal to the members of the PSOJ to engage with the Multicare Youth Foundation and other youth-serving private and public agencies and learn how you might get involved, not only with your resources, but also with your time. I can assure you that the rewards in terms of personal satisfaction are great. The rewards, I would suggest, will be even greater in terms of social cohesion and the assurance of Jamaica's uninterrupted development towards its goal of being the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Like Howard, I don't really want to detain you any further. And I note with some amount of chagrin that we are way past the hard stop, Mr. Meliedo. But nevertheless, while I have been kept largely in the dark, and you could see why, about the details of tonight's proceedings, I do suspect that the planners have some more surprises in store. And I want you all to stay and enjoy yourselves. Stay as late as you like. And once again, thank you all for sharing this occasion with me. Thank you.